that's where we want to get to. So MADE's been going for 6 years, and before that we've had other agricultural programs. We have other agricultural programs ongoing in DFID. But what we want to do is get beyond this to bringing in investors. And it's exciting that I think, MADE has done the groundwork for a lot of that. And perhaps if I could just tell you one interesting story. So Ogachukwu told me a bit about cassava work. And interestingly, one of the businesses there went to Buckingham Palace because the Prince's aides had selected his business because it was an innovation which peels the cassava and creates biodiesel. So everything links back in, but now back to MADE. Basically, this program's been going now for 6 years, and I know some people have been here right from the beginning, probably lots of you. And sometimes we forget how hard beginnings are. So, it's easy later for DFID evaluation consultants to come in and criticise. It's easy for people like me to poke holes and quiz Ogachukwu, who's been running with this programme, or the predecessors about this that went wrong or that went wrong, and our auditors can be really tough on us, quite rightly, because this is UK taxpayer money. We've come a long way, and I think MADE's learned some really great lessons. And for us at DFID, we really believe in lesson learning from our programs. So we spend quite a lot of money on evaluation and lesson learning in the hope that it will change and influence our future programs. And we look at things from all sorts of angles. So I hope we'll be doing that today from the angles of the people, the women, through to the businesses, the financiers, and NGOs like PIND who've been working with us. So for us, this is a market systems program, and we do many of these throughout DFID. So market systems is something DFID's been working with for, I think, easily 20 years now, because we believe that aid is not the end in itself. We believe in businesses lifting people out of poverty, and that actually some aid can be very distortionary. And what we want to do is set up the market systems and exit. So it's really, for us, this is a program that is similar to many others in DFID, and I want you to understand that we're going to learn lessons in DFID from this program, not just for Nigeria, okay? So we've already sent the draft evaluation report out to colleagues who are looking at similar programs even in Asia, in Malawi, etc. So, sometimes we get a bit overly Nigeria-focused in Nigeria, but actually we're going to learn a lot from the evaluation and from the program. We count things a lot in DFID. We like counting as well as big picture lessons. So on this, I understand that we've got some pretty good results around people's incomes. I don't want to quote them because I might get them wrong. I know what we did do is we doubled the demands in the second phase of MADE, because we like to stretch our contractors and our implementers. And I think that MADE rose to the challenge, which is important. So really, if we can learn some things, but also take some time to congratulate the people working on this program, because as we say, it's not an easy place to work, the Delta. It's got twists and turns, not only in the creeks, but also in the politics. And therefore, I'm going to hand over now, because I know a lot less about this program than most people in the room, and I've come here specifically to learn myself for our future programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our lineup would be our own Oga, Dr. Joaba, the DAI Executive Director, Nigeria. Let's put our hands to Country Director, Nigeria. Let's put our hands together for him.
We're very proud of the fact that it's been able to raise the income of more than 300,000 people in Nigeria, of which about half have been women. And this is quite significant, because this is an area where the mentality is we don't need to work, we don't need to trade. We've got the money coming out of the ground in terms of oil. Why should we make any sort of effort? And so the behavioral change, the mindset change that has been necessary to make this possible is very, very commendable. So well done to Tunde, well done to all staff of MAID. It will be really interesting to hear more.
And on that note, I want to respectfully invite Dr. Dara Akala, the Executive Director of PIN Foundation, to please deliver a goodwill message. Dr. Dara.
We are gathered here today to celebrate a wonderful gift that DFID gave to the Niger Delta region, which is the MAID program, that has been making a difference in the lives of the people of the region in the last 7 years. This project is winding down and will be closing very soon. As the saying goes, everything that has a beginning must have an end. But how I wish that was not to be so in this case. The Foundation for Partnership Initiatives in the Niger Delta is a non-profit or corporate social enterprise established in 2010, and with initial funding from Chevron Corporation to build partnerships for peace and equitable economic development in the Niger Delta. On behalf of all of us at PIN, I would like to congratulate all those who had been involved in making MAID a huge success, starting from DFID to DAI Nigeria, DAI International, the MAID team, and under the leadership of Tunde Oderinde, and all partners, both from the public and private sectors.
Hello. Thank you very much, Fidelis, and all the speakers for the best wishes. My presentation will be taking us through the context in the Niger Delta. I think I will overflog that. And we will talk about our achievements and the drivers. We will also talk about our partners and the actions taken to deliver the results. Then we will look at also the adaptations and the learnings, and also we will be getting some sound bites and from our partners in the Niger Delta. We have vast expanse of mangrove, waterfronts, and the climate situation in the Niger Delta, heavy rains. Infrastructure is still very challenging. Building roads in the north, it's quite expensive to do the same kilometer in the Niger Delta. Identify partners we can work with to be able to, one, stimulate and unlock the constraints in that market, create that opportunity for the poor to be part of that market, and at the same time, the private sector to bring investment in the Delta, so that once we create the win-win situation, we begin to see capacities of service providers being developed, and from there, we see economic development at the support market, which will lead to enterprise performance, and from there, increased incomes for the beneficiaries and poverty reduction. So we were very, very glad to embrace that same approach. For us to trigger the market system, we needed to identify the key actors, and these are segmented. In the government, we looked at who are the regulators within the markets we will work. We talked about the private sector partners, farmers, BMOs within the select market, and also the CVOs who also find ways of mobilizing people and also ensuring that funds are appropriately spent. Okay. And being a facilitator, we see ourselves as a temporary actor in the market. Yes, ambitious target, but we have an approach that does not allow us to be part of that market system. In a way, we are just facilitators. But with funding from DFID and also identifying partners like PIN, working in the Niger Delta, we could leverage on their relationships. We were able to work with facilitators so that indirectly We are not the ones directly addressing the issues within the context, but we are working through facilitators, and through that, we were able to create synergistic projects that will enable us to touch wider market audience. We're all here to see the closeout of MID 2. But it's important I take you back to our achievement on MID 1. Very typical of market systems program. The first 2 years, it's like scratching the ground. We're identifying partners, we're looking at value propositions, how do we get them to change their business models, what are we talking to the right people, have we identified the right market? And you can see that the first 2 years, the achievements were really low. But by the time we're able to deepen that market system, we're able to identify and align incentives appropriately with partners. And by the third year of the project, we peaked at about 130,000 outreach. And by end of MID 1, we were able to reach 249,000 beneficiaries in the Niger Delta, and importantly, increased incomes for over 150,000 beneficiaries in the Niger Delta. That, I would say, was the rationale for MID 2. Now you have the system going, you've developed the market, you have partners you're working with. Some of them you can continue that relationship with. You can double the results in half the time, half the money, and also the fact that most of our partners were offered that leeway to identify where to start from. And some of the agri-inputs companies found comfort in the non-conflict areas. Some started from Calabar, Ondo State, where there is no conflict. But doing MID 2, defeat Bayelsa and Rivers. And the second component added to MID 2 was that we should tackle the issues of human trafficking through addressing economic causes of illegal migration in Edo State. Renegotiating, realigning incentives with partners, and defeat, I can say today that we have justified that extension. By doubling the outreach, by December, we reached 550 people and 300,000 with increased income. We will still be tracking before they close out, and most importantly for us, it's the net attributable increase in income, which is over 50 million pounds in less than 2 years. I talked about the partnerships we've made as well, and I wouldn't want to dive deep into that. But it's important to say that there were competitions as well, but the competition drove us into innovation. But we leverage on their resources a lot. We're partners. But most profound is the partnership around developing capacities of service providers and co-facilitators within the Delta. One for us, not just that we want to use them to reach our numbers, but importantly, it's part of our exit strategy. When we're no longer there, who's going to take my steps? So we felt, let's look for reputable organizations that are based in the Delta and teach them how to facilitate, not direct delivery. And through that, we've been able to reach over 101 organizations and also train about 45 service providers who are all over Niger Delta doing business commercially. The video we're about to see, it's a soundbite from one of our partners who currently is a co-facilitator to MID and on 3 value chains: agricultural inputs, cassava, and also poultry. So please listen.
Because of the 1 year
implementation in Edo State as well. We've engaged with key state actors. We've interacted with the Edo Jobs, which is the skill agency in Edo, to work on the Edo Innovate Hub. That is the ICT-based innovative hub, where we engaged a manager, supported the hub with a manager, and the manager turned the hub from being dependent on government to being self-sustaining. And also we worked with the Investment Promotion Office to begin to look at attracting and building on relationship with partners that are already prospecting in the state. Towards the end of last year, we added 2 interventions within entertainment. But I'll tell you, it is too early to say that we're beginning to record numbers heavily in Edo State. But we have some good changes already coming in some of our interventions in Edo State as well. We now see partners beginning to change the way they design reintegration programs. Before ESIP in Edo State, you see partners in reintegration program all doing the same thing, vocational skills center. And afterwards, we must give starter pack. Starter pack means we have just this portfolio of money, and that can only reach just a little. But we now begin to see some of our partners thinking about demand-driven skills training, and we've seen them move into diverse sector because they've seen the demand. And also we've seen them developing inclusive business model, because it's not just about training and getting people in there. We're now beginning to see them link up with organizations that can offtake from them. We've also seen some of our partners building on the comparative advantages of things within Edo State. We now have partners that are deepening their work in the feed finishing and the ruminants and feed finishing and the ruminant development. And we've also seen partners that are interested in taking pineapple and plantain from Edo State. These are crop of comparative advantages in Edo State, and that is gradually growing to scale as well. We've also seen partners that are investing because made stepped out to help them address the supply side issues. A & Shine is based in Abuja, but A & Shine has been struggling to scale up from 150 to about 300 because they need to source more honey. Edo serves as a place of comparative advantage. We are currently working in about 8 clusters in Edo State, and we have A & Shine investing in Edo State right now. And we got Fiverr Greek that finance about 50 beekeepers, and A & Shine is willing to invest more to get more beekeepers so that they can meet this integrity of their supply chain. Also, we have Ekedo, which is a new initiative in Edo State. Because of the problem farmers face in accessing market, that is solely establishment in Edo. It's a one-stop shop that anything produced in Edo you can buy from there as well. 100% investment stimulated by ESIP. Then we've seen other partners developing the aspirational opportunity in the hospitality business sector. Amina Academy, beyond just training, especially it used to train for a fee, but right now is willing to bring you on, train you, and link you to job for you to recover its cost, and we're seeing that gain traction. It's already exploring opportunity for skills for migration. How can some of them with very requisite skills will have the right certification that can be employed abroad can also be linked to that opportunity as well. Then we also looked at another aspirational opportunity within Nollywood. We have a lot of directors based in Edo State, and some of them are interested in supporting the development of Edo State to become one of the Nollywood hubs. And we identified the issues with the entertainment industry, the poor video production, lack of the skills, and we're working with the Benin Film Academy to develop the market, and currently we have 10 winners who are currently shooting films in Edo. Some of them are returnees, and also we have the support of DSTV and Iroko that is willing to buy off that product from them. And Iroko just gave 3 slots to 3 of the returnees as intern, and they'll be part of the production within Iroko for free, I think, a year. So I think we have soundbite from our partners in ESIP as well.
They've identified aspirational opportunities in the sector that could make Edo State a production hub, attractive to movie producers, directors, artists, and the youth in the state. Made in partnership with Edo Creative Hub and Trace Niger, facilitated summits to showcase the opportunities in Edo State to entertainment professionals for their buy-in.
As far as the movie business is concerned, there's a lot of practitioners here happening. Well, movie and really to get on the mainstream. And made with this Female Edo project, it was strong at the nick of time. What was it like? Yeah, never before as the Edo film industry witnessed the kind of boom that this project was. 10 movies being shot simultaneously within the Edo film industry.
With MAID's intervention in Edo State, existing organizations supporting reintegration of returnees and victims of human trafficking attended the MAID facilitated market development training that enabled them to change the way they design and implement their programs to ensure better impact and sustainability. They now offer skills development based on market trends and facilitate inclusive business models with commercial relationships.
When we came over, we really see the opportunities we have to manage to strengthen. And when they carry out the organization, they are not to the we saw our strength, we saw our weakness, we have to strengthen our weakness and connect. And also the approach of being a social enterprise also, it was also something that came from a partnership with me.
Somebody. In delivering our numbers as well, analysis on MAID 1, we identified 3 key issues. Underrepresentation of women in functional areas of the value chain, limited access for productive resources, and also the socio-cultural constraints limiting some women getting involved in economic development activities. And we work through organizations like QBW, Roses, to help mainstream women within our core value chains, but beyond that, also able to influence peer organizations and mentor to ensure that they have their women mainstream into some key agriculture, especially ones that are perceived as being dominated by men. We also looked at promoting specific women enterprises. The NOLA project, for instance, was specifically designed for us to target women in household. In the course of our engagement with partners within our contracts, we ensure that they meet certain targets on gender, and we also supported them by linking them to these organizations for them to meet those targets as well. And to address the constraints on sociocultural issues, we jointly with some of our partners in the Delta developed the GTG, the Gender Talk Groups, and through these they have modules where they discuss issues relating to the social cultural constraints limiting women getting involved in economic activities. So, for us, sustainability is very key. And in the course of all our work, we ensure that we note the key opportunities for sustainable development within those interventions. And for us, within the input delivery, we've seen a lot of partners adopting the value proposition of ensuring that they meet directly with farmers to build their market through the use of GAP or the BMP. These are field-based activities where they're able to sell products and at the same time reach out to more farmers. We've also seen a situation where there's strengthened relationships in terms of the delivery channel. Unlike before, when the input company it's only concerned about the agro dealer, but now we're seeing agro dealers working out relationship with lead farmers and also village-based areas. And also we've seen expansion of products, like there are some input companies that are now bringing in new products because there is high demand for them. We've also seen a lot of adaptations in our technology adoption in palm oil and fisheries. And most importantly, the evolution of the ag extension through service provision is very, very profound. We've seen network of service providers driving linkages, not just for inputs, we've also seen them aggregating produce to link with processors as well. And we also see our BPSC moving faster than projects innovating steadily. And that means that even when it comes to an end, our service providers are all wired up to take that relationship forward. So, most importantly, and why we're doing this is also to talk about the lesson learned. The use of market system in a challenging environment like Niger Delta, for us, the initial discourse was, will that be sustainable? Do you think you can reach that at scale? But I think 6 years down the line, we've seen that, yes, that sustainable solution can definitely be delivered within the Niger Delta using the market system approach. We've seen that coming into the market as a temporary facilitator means you begin to think about who takes over the market when you're no longer there. And it means you need to begin to design your exit right from the beginning. We've also seen that working through local actors for us, especially the lead farms, aligns that relationship in the way that they see the value proposition and also the commercial incentive to want to continue even when made is no longer there. We try it and we leave it. In market systems, they say we design to fail fast. So it means that we are very adaptive in the way we implement projects. We learn from our failures, we change the entry points, and we move on. The use of commercial extension model, we've seen that is the way to go. When there's commercial incentive, it means that when the project is no longer supporting or building capacity of that same service provider, they see that incentive to want to take it forward. And for us, the partnership with co-facilitator, it's not just about building the ecosystem in the Niger Delta alone, but it's also one way for us to have developed our exit strategy in a way that, and also to meet our target in the hard-to-reach areas. On the ESIP intervention, which is our Edo intervention focused on the reintegration of returnees into economic activities, yes, we've seen partners changing approaches and adopting design that is sustainable and also that can grow to scale and enable them reach more people. We've also seen that a lot of them are embracing approaches that follow the segmentation. They've done starter packs for returnees and they realize some of them turn back 3 months afterwards to come for more. And they later realized that they gave almost all that back to the family. So we're beginning to see partners designing intervention, not just for the returnees, but they begin to look at how do we also design things that appropriate for the families, things appropriate for even some of the potential victims who are still within the rural areas. Just addressing the economic solution is not enough. We've had cases of returnees supported, capacity built, but they are quick to sell, make some additional money, and they want to go. So we also realize that beyond economic development, that reorientation, changing mindset, it's also still very, very important. And our relationship with the likes of Edo Jobs, wealth creation, human trafficking was effective because they aligned government priorities with the situation. They knew that we needed to support the stimulation of economic activities in Niger Delta, and in our interaction and engagement with them, it was so as well. That's the end of my presentation. Sorry for the glitches and
I think he deserves another hand of applause.
Nanaya, another So I wanted to, I want this to be a conversation. I'll ask a couple of questions to get people going. We have people who've been used to working together in some cases, but they all have interrelationships. And so just to kind of kick us off, I'd like to ask Comfort how she got involved, how she decided to approach MAID and PIND and... Is that better? Yeah, okay. To engage and try to learn about the Market Systems Development Project. What?
So we got to learn about the various intervention area in the Niger Delta within the agri sector. And when search for a sustainable and homegrown solution or adaptable solution to challenges within the Niger Delta region. So at that event, the Niger Delta Development Forum, we stumbled across the market system development approach on one of the PIN foundation material. Then the pursuit began. We followed PIN on NDLink on their social media platform, and we saw the advert on market system development training through the Capable program, capacity building for local empowerment. So we decided to give it a shot by applying to participate as an organization. We started applying in 2015, 16, we never got invited to participate. Then we expressed interest again in 2017. So we weren't discouraged by the fact that we were not invited to participate. So 2017 May, we got invited to participate in the 1-week-long training. As we did initially, when we approached the program, we expressed interest to facilitate in the area of agro-input, because to us that would cut across different value chain. But we decided to narrow down because as at 2017, we had carried out an intervention in the rural communities, coastal community, precisely Bakassi, using the direct intervention approach. But by this time, we understood the implication of the direct intervention approach and decided to adopt and integrate the market system development approach into our strategies for implementing intervention within the area.
Thank you very much.
Okay, facilitation to us means identifying key actors within a particular sector or value chain or area of intervention rather than directly involved in implementing your intervention. You bring these key actors together, identify their capacity, their area of strength, and see how you can harness and leverage this to make a system work.
Thank you very much. Moses, you first became involved with MAID, I think, at the end of 2015.
Yeah.
And how?
I'm the National Sales and Marketing Manager for Turnaround Limited. Our first interaction with MAID was, like you said, 2015. Proud to MAID, we concentrated our marketing in the commercial centers nationwide. We were more interested in doing business with big farms and mega distributors. We call them mega distributors because they are actually partners with us. They invest their money in the company, we give them products. And they are the ones that create sub-distributors and retailers for themselves. We're not really interested in going into those rural communities. So when we had interaction we made, we were invited to a meeting, and I was the one that represented the company. I saw potentials, I saw opportunities, and I remember back then when I took it back to the company, to my MD, he wasn't interested because we already had a policy. So it took several conventions for him to just, okay, I will let you do this. So even the first contract I signed, he didn't sign. I signed the first contract and we started. And the journey had been very interesting. So many things have changed. Even the company's policy has changed. Like I was sharing with some people, I said my 2020 budget was determined by the activities I had with MAID. And the whole face of the whole business has changed, actually. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That had just entered Nigeria in 2014, I think, 2015. What was different about how you worked, and what did MAID do that actually has helped you expand your business?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Chakungala. Let me help my friend who was having difficulty in saying it. Actually, our group is actually almost 45 years old in Nigeria. And our chairman, of course, is an Indian, but now he's a Nigerian. He's a Nigerian passport holder. So let me say it is not a multinational. Okay, it's a multinational, but it's not, it's an Indian. Now we have several operations on the ICT side. SERPAC, working with the Indian Ministry, passports and all those things in different parts of Africa. But there was a thinking that coming on the top people that Nigeria, he being in Nigeria for so long, he has seen that Nigerians were very healthy in the beginning when he used to come. Even I am also 31 years here. When I came, Nigerians never die of heart attack, no sugar complaint, no stroke or anything like that. But these days, coming back, it has been very found that the incidence of stroke, heart attacks, and degenerating health is going too much. So my chairman had a vision, okay, the root cause we investigated and found that it was all coming through the food system, which was purely using chemicals and poisonous materials into the food system, either as a fungicide or weedicide, fertilizer, everything. So we opened a new company called Contact Global Agro Limited in 2014. It's going to be 6 years, another 1 month later. I was the first employee given the task to take it off. Today we have more than 20 expatriates working from different nationalities, over 100 Nigerian or 120 Nigerians working with us. We have a group of agronomists, pathologists, biotechnologists, soil scientists, everything. So first we started with microbiology laboratory where we tested the soils and all that. We could see that the soil was getting degenerated. Then we took the microbes, beneficial microbes from the soils. And after 1 year, 1.5 years, we are able to register 36 good microbes in NCBI Gene Bank, America. This is the first time from Africa somebody is doing that. Now, secondly, by the time in 2014, in the Agro Innovate, we had a small exhibition of our products, wherein one of the UK DFID MAID program person, I think it was Chika or somebody who was called, he came to see whatever we were doing. Actually, he came to see us in our place here to see what we are doing. Then he brought the head of the institution. That is how we came into Niger. Till then, we are only working with some of the northern states to do testing and all those, and also University of ABU University, IAR, Institute of Agricultural Research and all that. So we never operated anything in the Niger Delta region. You introduced us to Niger Delta, and I must thank you for that one. And another big thank you that should come to you is because the head then came and told me, why don't you do something for oil spillage? So we thought of that also. It's a microbial, it's a bouquet of microbes, 9 microbes that eat up the oil spillage. 5 of them live without oxygen, 4 of them live with oxygen. So today, as of today, we have a MOU signed with, because to do our own research, it will take 10 or 12 years to find out the real discovery. So we have tied up with the University of Newcastle, Australia, and also another Indian agriculture university. So they have the solution, and we will make it a formulate solution. So this is how we came to MAID. And you asked the second part, how it has benefited us, is it?
How has your business expanded?
Yes, definitely. When we started with MAID, we had around 6 products, 2 biofertilizers, 2 pesticide, biofungicide, 2 of them, like that. We started off. Today we have 21 formulations which have already been tested with Zaria University over the last 2 years. Now coming to the growth of the business, we started at 0. We never had any business in Niger Delta. We started with 0. The second year, we had a growth of almost 145%. Third year, we worked 3 years. Third year is almost 255% growth. So that is a fantastic growth we have. And the benefit, another thing is that we had taken staff, agronomists to train the farmers who are agronomists. Basically, they have training them. And they are now our ambassadors for organic farming. They are also like our distributors for our products, besides the other distributors that they have enabled us to create. So these are some of the big achievements.
Okay. Thank you very much. How difficult, both for Turner Wright and Contech, you're big companies and you look at the whole country.
Yes.
And then you say the Niger Delta. What's the initial reaction if you're talking about expanding business in the Niger Delta versus expanding business somewhere else in the country? In
Niger Delta, one big advantage I see is that we did not come as a company there. We came behind the doors of UK DFID MAID program, and that had a very, very big value that was given to us, because that face was better. Because I had instances when I used to meet farmers, they used to say, okay, you are something, you are coming with something and going, are you going to be here tomorrow? We said, we are going to be here. That was some of the reactions. And another good reaction I got from, the result, if I am speaking, if in the first year was only cassava, 6 states out of the 9. If after the first year, I think DFID itself took a video in which 6 stands were taken by the farmers from the farmers' field, and another 6 was taken from the contact field. The 6 stands gave 8 kg to 12.5 kg, differing from different states. But the other 6 of them gave minimum 22 kg to 36.5 kg. So the variance was very big, almost 3 times.
Okay.
Similarly, it happened, the next year we added vegetables, rice and other things, third year also. So the results were not up to that, but at least twice in most cases.
I just want to put this back to Moses. Is it more difficult to work in the Niger Delta than other parts of the country? Do you have any examples of?
It's actually difficult working in the Niger Delta. Number one, the Niger Delta youths are already used to oil money. So for them, agriculture is not something interesting to them. The first model we adopted, we were to recruit 35 of them as village level vaccinators, and we were to pay them 25,000 naira as remuneration. But it wasn't interesting to them for me to work a month, 25,000. So in a month, we'll have, the first time we'll have 30, the second time we'll have 22, another month we'll have 18. So we had issues with that model because even with the accountant in the office, it was finding it difficult. Last month, I paid 30 people. This month, why am I paying 18 people and things like that? So we had trust issues and all that. And the Terrail, it's actually a difficult place. I remember we were in a town and we had planned for a farmers forum. Everybody was involved. We had set out. We were about starting, and these guys came in all armed. I'd never been afraid in my life. And, you know, with even the pleading from the chief and all that, they didn't let us have our program that day. So we had to pack up and run out of the place back to Lagos. For a while, it took me a long time to convince me to come back to Rivers State. So it's actually difficult. And I could compare because with MAID, we were able to get another contract from government. Government is co-sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we were to have the same project replicated in five states of the North Central, Abuja inclusive. You know, here they are actually just used to government money, but when we went round the whole thing, we spoke with some of the village health and the politicians. So they were able to pay for some of the services for the farmers. So for me, it was easier in the North Central than in the Niger Delta.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Badejo, I mean, you're a local service provider, but you have, you heard Momo talk, and you know Momo. Give us just a little bit of your background, how you started and what your business has become, how it's evolved.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Badejo Ayodeji, and I work with the Actual Consults Nigeria Limited. And I would say I'm very grateful for the interactions I had with PIND and MAID. I had to put it that way because I knew MAID through PIND. And I think I'm a living proof of the wonderful collaboration that PIND and MAID had. I was privileged to facilitate or be a service provider for USAID from 2014 down to 2017. And in our capacity, we were able to train 11,500 fish farmers in 9 different states. It was a very beautiful exercise. They had a good intention and went out to drive their concept forward. But it caused a lot of distortment in that sector for us because before we went into that project, we had a burden, a purpose, to see that we establish more jobs by creating avenues for investors to invest in the agro-allied industry. We started gradually, and then we're growing, and at a point, we're just about 3 or 4 of us on the team at that time. When the project came in from Market 2, we took it up, went up to about 14 staff. We ran the project for over 3 years. It was successful. We delivered. And less than 6 months, when we went back to evaluate the space, we noticed that more than 85% of the farmers were not more actively involved. Why was this? We began to investigate. We noticed that for every training, for every meeting we had to pay the farmers to come. And who is the farmer who would come when he knows that he will have transport allocation, free food, and some other logistics to go with it? So it was easy for us to make the number, but it was very difficult for us to sustain it as a business. We pride ourselves as a social enterprise, and we had the mindset to follow through to creating this avenue that these farmers will be able to produce for certain markets that will come and use the end products at the end of the day. But what happened? When we called farmers to come and relearn or re-specialize on certain aspects of the industry, they failed to come. They were expecting us to foot their bills for coming. And income became very difficult even for us. Each time they see my face, they say, oh, you brought money again from USAID. I said, no, you have to pay me for this job I'm doing. And our clientele reduced back down to less than 145 fish farmers. And it affected my staff. We came back down to 8. And I saw an opening in the paper, and I bidded for the job. I came with my team to PIN's office, and they had me interact. I had never gone through market system development approach before, but Precious, who was on the team, said, my concept looks like this approach. Please enroll in the next training of the Capable Made project. And that was the game changer for me. In fact, it turned my thinking, it turned the enterprise, it turned our office around. We now began to look at the terrain in a different light. After going through the training, we were able to put up a concept note for PIN, and PIN gave us a little grant to assist our own involvement with what we wanted to do. And what did we want to do? We wanted to see how we can improve investment in the sector that we have selected, aquaculture. Just like Momo and Likes had said in the video, we also experienced a very interesting turnout. What happened? We had a comparative note. A farmer who is farming by himself, most of the cluster farms we're having were operated by individuals, buying their feed, doing their projects, doing it by themselves, and incurring a lot of cost. So we saw that as a gap. So what we did was to create a small demonstration with our funds and the grant inclusive, and we showcased what we call a proper aggregator system, where the farmers can actually own a particular farm. So we only asked the farmers to invest a little token, and they brought in 65,000 per slot. Now this 65,000 per slot was able to come together for us to buy from one of our partners, an input dealer. I won't want to mention the name because I believe we're on air, and I want to still maintain my exclusivity, my inclusivity to other feed input dealers. Now, we had that year, and it was interesting because the cost of production came down. We could even drive the price down, where it was selling for 600 naira per kg. We were selling for 520 per kg, and we still made good profit. Investors were smiling, and we made it an incubation hub. Why? We knew there are a lot of people who had money to invest in fish farming, but they couldn't run the farm themselves. They had money to invest. The gap there is workforce. So we used the platform to also train people who will be accredited as faithful stewards on a farm project. Now this ended, we harvested in January and we sold out. It gave us a very beautiful template. 4 other companies called us to do something similar for them in the poultry section and also in the fishery section. And we already having our project outlined for us. Now, when we took on that...
What kinds of companies?
Okay. Well,
not donor projects.
No, not donor product, no. The biggest protein company today in Nigeria, Naknudo, we had a meeting with them on the 9th of January, poultry, and they said, oh, if you could have done this without the government's influence, and people paid, they invested, and they had this thing come out, why can't you help us put up a stand for 60,000 birds every week coming out from your farmers. And it's a project now we want to face as a private service provider. Our job is straightforward. We want to make it easy for investors to be able to invest in Nigeria, especially in the sector that we have selected. Besides that, it gave us the infantry to write concept notes based on the market system approach. And we were invited even offshore to understudy. I was in Taiwan in September and November last year to understudy what goes on there to be able to attract 2 or 3 investors to the space in Nigerian market. So this wouldn't have been if we were not exposed to the MADE project and MADE and PAIN project called the Market System Development Approach training that we had sometime in August 2017 and also a sequel in May 2018. But much more important than that, I wanted to really applaud the fact that they were able to give us that coach, that mentor, that took us up for a period of about 6 weeks. No, having gone through the training was beautiful. It opened our eyes, we learned a lot. But having a coach to tell you, this is why the sector needs to be analyzed. This is how you need to do this analysis. And when I worked with him, it was a game changer. It opened the sector up for us. And today we have about 27 people working with us as a team. We're opening new avenues for us to do something similar. And we are hopeful that with or without MADE and PAIN, we can still forge ahead. And I think that should be a story of note.
Okay, thank you. James.
Story between PAIN and MADE. And for me, it's an excellent example of how development actors should really move forward. Because in the past, I've seen instances where every project, every agency is having to start all over again. So in the case of PAIN and MADE, it was more of efficiency, strong collaboration. So PAIN, MADE didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They basically took on from where PAIN started. And there was excellent collaboration and cross-learning as well, where MADE focused more on the eastern part of the Niger Delta, PAIN concentrated on the western part of the Niger Delta, and there were also some cross-cutting areas. Now, you can see a legacy, okay? Strong co-facilitators, strong service providers, strong lead firms. And these are major assets that PAIN are actually going to inherit. I won't call it inheritance per se, because we're already working with these people because of the way the collaboration was structured. Each partner that MADE is working with is very familiar with PAIN, because the MADE model is also very familiar to that of PAIN. Similar sectors, similar models. As MADE is rounding off, the exit strategy is already in place because we're already familiar with these partners. It's just for us to keep counting the results, the numbers, as we go forward. Overall, between MADE and PAIN, we've reached over 500 in outreach. And to a large extent, MADE contributed to, it's now 650 from the last count. You know, that's quite significant. So as we're moving forward, we're hoping that it will be a natural exit, taking on these partners, working with them, and making sure we're counting the numbers.
Thank you. And for the part with MADE, when you worked with MADE or with PAIN, it was really about jump-starting a new activity, a new location. What are the next things you need, you know, as the private sector to drive development and also comfort? What are the things that you would like to see from PAIN going forward?
What would like to, giving us that same leverage to use the same model and adaptable ones or adapted ones to drive intervention and upscale areas where we have intervened within the value chain across the MADE intervention.
Thank you. Moses, any?
For us as a company, we've been thinking on the sustainability of the project, and I have a plan that in February I was going to be in the Niger Delta. I have 167 village level dealers. I'm going to have a meeting with them across the 9 states that we did business with MAID. What I want is for PIN to continue to support us. Let's have a relationship even beyond the MAID project, the MAID relationship. That's all.
All right, I would just say a few words there. Looking at how we've coexisted before now, we would want to see a balance in the equation, making sure that everybody knows their role and are able to push in that space. We have generated a lot of service providers. We won't expect PIN to do the jobs of the service provider, in the sense that most of the linkages, most of the trainings, we as service providers, we do it also for a living. And sometimes those who pay are these big investors or these big corporations that you bring on board. So if you can link us to them, not necessarily going directly from co-facilitator to this big input, it downplays the service provider in between, somehow in between. So we want to see how we can quickly adjust and move on that template so that we can have relevance in every sector of the value chain.
I have not worked with PINT, but I have invited him to see our research facility several times, but he is dodging. But today I think he might make it. So in that case, today itself, I am ready to sign an MOU with PINT to work with them.
Thank you. We've been dominating. I'd like to open up the floor to questions. Any questions or comments that you would have or would like to make? I see a lot of people at the far back. Do we have a mic for the back?
Well, use that. I could move the mic to them. So please, we'll take 3 questions so that we'll get done. We are racing against time. And I see that people are already leaving the hall, so that we are not left alone in the hall.
Okay, my name is Mustafa Ismail from TechMustaf, Plans Project. I listened to the project lead, and it was a great story, a lot of achievements, lessons learned. But I just want to ask, if you had to say one particular key challenge working with facilitator to deliver, what would you share with us as a key challenge in terms of using the system of working directly with the facilitators to deliver on the project?
I think we'll take all the questions, then we'll all response. Any other one?
No, take the other question. I just wondered who he was directing.
Who else? Please indicate, and the mic will be taken to you. Yes, please do.
Okay, I want to thank him for a very good presentation. I just want to ask about the data that says 300,000 people had big increases, beneficiaries and so forth, because that's very huge. And I saw in your presentation you walked through other intermediaries. I didn't see you downstream working with those people so much. Did you just contribute, or are you claiming that you actually improved all this? I think this is very significant.
Any other comment or questions? Okay, I'll hand over the microphone to,
Yeah, thank you very much. On the facilitators, I think you will find the challenge around capacity. All the facilitators won't have the same capacity. And also in terms of reach and bite, let's go with the flow. Sometimes as projects, we tend to be too restrictive, and we did that on Made One. When we worked with the facilitators, we restricted them to cassava. But when we were deepening the market, they opened up to say, you know what, we're interested in poultry, we're interested in ag input. You get what I mean? So let's not be too restrictive. And at the same time, I think you need to continually support the capacity, because you can't find all the facilitators at the same level of capacity. Even within Made and PIN, we know the A level, A grade, A list, B grade, and all we continue to do is bring them together, refresh our courses through the M4P capable, build their capacity, get them involved in implementing projects with us, hand-holding, and that's why we gave some of them mentees to build them to that capacity we would like to see by the time we're exiting the market. So 2 things, don't be too restrictive, continue to train them as well. Regarding our target of over 300,000, those are 300,000 with increased income. But as at the end of December 2019, we've reached over 550,000 from all the value chains. This is direct interaction with our service providers, not with Made directly. With our service providers. On all the interventions, we don't directly intervene, but we've built relationship with our lead farms. Our lead farms are working with their service providers. In the agricultural inputs, we have relationship between the lead farms and the agro dealers. The agro dealers have built relationship with lead farmers. Lead farmers now have village area administrators. Within the poultry sector as well, you've seen vaccine companies working with VLDs. VLDs are transforming from VLVs to VLD to poultry service providers. Also in the oil palm, we have fabricators selling equipment, we have millers, we have processors, and we also have input companies working with farmers on the BMP. The same thing with cassava. We have lead farms working with business service providers and facilitators using the GAP model to reach out to farmers. But it's not everything we touch we count. We also need to think about the attribution as well. So it's not just about, yay, because we touch you, because you attended our training. We go from our outreach to looking at usage, building up, understanding the benefits, and from there, you increase in productivity before we can count you as increased income. So if you look at the transitioning from 550, we have about, I don't have the data in my head right now, I think a certain conversion ratio for the people with increased productivity, and not all of them with increased productivity. We only count people that have earned over 15% in increased income as impact. So, and the 300,000 is a combination of Made 1 and Made 2, not just in 1 year. But what we did was to double the outreach in Made 2 through the deepening of the market system. Now we had, from Made 1, we had over 500. At the end of in December on Made 2, we have close to over 1,500 service providers working on all our interventions. And because they now see that commercial incentive to engage in the market, they continue to work beyond even our reach. Yeah. Yes, please.
My question has to do with to what extent the program may have contributed to some level of stability. I know stability is pretty much a broad word, But given the fact that the Niger Delta, unfortunately, is known for its volatility in some parts of it, it'll be interesting to establish if this particular program helped in some way to try to get groups of young people, prevent them from either being recruited by criminal gangs or at least helping some of them exit. It may have been an unintended consequence, but I think it's something perhaps worth thinking about given the situation that we're facing in that region at the moment.
Additional questions or comments? Okay.
Mine is short. Leather appears as one of your sectors, but you haven't said anything about it. Is there an issue there, or is there some pointers? I'm interested because I'm in that sector.
Any other at the back end questions? Okay.
So it's January 2020. If you were to go back in time, 7 years ago, and you look at the lessons that have been learned and assume that you are starting afresh, what would you have done? What would you do differently? If you were back 7 years, but you know all that you know now, and you knew them back then, what would you have done differently? Specifically for Tunde and Maid, but for some of the partners, knowing the progress you've made, how would you answer the same question?
7 years, what would we have done differently? I think in terms of targeting, we will have been more targeting. Yes, we focused on unlocking constraints within the value chains. We a bit restrictive around the sectors identified from the business case. We were not dynamic enough to add on a bit more. Looking at value chains as a whole, but there are other livelihoods opportunity that we could have built upon. Then also the issue of building resilience, it's also an issue that I think we should have done, especially when you look at somebody who's investing within one value chain. You know, some of them are just a flood away into poverty. Some of them are just possibly one castle disease and they down back into poverty. We will have done a bit more of getting people to like diversify, you know, and that was what some of our co-facilitators started doing when we got the likes of Kara to begin to look at not just ag input or cassava, but started looking at that. So she's already telling someone who's doing cassava to like put poultry, and we're beginning to see a bit of that. But I think that should have been part of our strategy, more like building that resilience and also targeting a bit more, especially the youth and our intervention. But Sylvanus will be able to talk a bit to the data in terms of demography, but I think we were not intentional around targeting the youth inclusion. We focused on women, but I think maybe we'll have done a bit more around the youth. Regarding leather, yes, we worked on leather by not, I would say by default. James Wong closed, and the investment of DFID needs to continue and needs to build on that. And because ABBA, that happens to be part of the Niger Delta State, falls within the Niger Delta, I guess we engaged with James Wong, and I think they took on agency to support actors in the leather group to start branding. We supported capacity building of some of the cutters and finishers within ABBA. We got them to the point, and also the linkage to access to finance for them to have working capital to be able to do more to do the integrity of the supply chain. You know, but we realized that it would be a very hard sell to take that as part of our justification for May 2, knowing that we have over 150,000 to meet, and the scale
will be very little within the cluster in Ghana.
We're expected to have ended at 1 o'clock. We started at 10:33, so I will say we're on time in terms of the 2.5 hours we wanted to spend. I would like to draw the curtain here. And in thanking everybody for coming, I would like to invite Bill Grant to move a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Fidelis. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming. For me, this has been a personal journey for the last 10 years, since I first started with helping design the strategy of PIN, and then being offered the opportunity to do the same thing with DFID and make sure that the two programs worked together and leveraged each other. And just to think of how much the situation has changed in the last 10 years, it's incredible. 2009 was the amnesty, coming out of the conflict. That was the underlying problem. And we've had a great run for the last 7 years between MAID and PIN. And it's really been due to the staff and their hard work on both sides, but also the co-facilitators, the service providers, the lead firms who said, we want to move into the Niger Delta. We want to see what the business opportunity is and how can we grow our business. So from the DAI international standpoint, I'm based in London. I was based in London. Now I'm based in Washington again. I just want to say thank you to everybody, and especially to our funder who has given us the opportunity to prove the models that have been developed and implemented. So a vote of thanks to the people who have been participating with us in today's presentation. I don't want to leave out Shola, who has been working. Did you go to bed last night, Shola? You stayed here all night working on the videos and things. So it's been a good team effort, and I would like to thank everybody who's been working with us for the last 10 years. Dara, Kenji, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good. You didn't thank me. You didn't thank me.
You're part of the main team. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have a cocktail, and it's at the lobby. It's already served. Please serve yourselves, do networking, get to know yourselves, and I'll let the development sector is a small world. We'll keep meeting. Thank you very much.